Hi everyone, coming to you live from Aarhus. Thanks so much for tuning into our talk, and a huge shout out to the Umbraco team for the big effort they've put into to this entire conference. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Today we would like to start out by showing you guys how easy it is to set up Umbraco Heartcore and how to best utilize the headless capabilities it offers with Next.js. Then, we've been using Umbraco Headless as a content provider at Impact for a while, and we're super excited to see the progress and maturity Heartcore is reaching. When we run through that, I'll move on to show you how we at Impact are using the benefits that Umbraco and Next.js are offering into a more coherent and internal Accelerator project.
Yeah, so hello everyone. My name is Jakob, and I'm located here in our Aarhus office. I joined Impact almost 5 years ago as a senior developer, and I'm now working as a technology lead. This means I get to work with many interesting problems, and I get to make big systems work on a daily basis. Now, the last couple of years, we've been using Umbraco to make a best-in-class experience for our clients. And I've been very fortunate to be involved integrating Umbraco on our newest projects. So hit me up on Twitter if you want to know more or have further questions after this presentation.
My name is Stefan, and I'm located in our Copenhagen office. I joined Impact back in September, and this was actually my second time around joining the team. First time as a front-end developer a few years back when we were only about 100 people. This time around, we are 230 people, and my role is a bit different. As an Accelerator lead, my primary focus is supporting our company's values and vision through a ton of innovative initiatives and internal as well as external products. I know it sounds vague. We're going to show you guys a small glimpse of what this means later on in the presentation. So before we dive in, I believe it will make sense to give you some context of our size and what problems and for whom we are solving here at Impact. So Impact is a digital commerce agency with roughly 230 colleagues located in 4 offices spread out across Denmark and Portugal. We specialize in large-scale commerce, which means that we have the privilege of working with some of the biggest commerce sites out there. Working with customers at this scale introduces a ton of complexity, and it requires some extra catering, and it gives us some exciting challenges. Our in-house expertise stretches from orchestrating and managing thousands of product data, strategically building and scaling commerce businesses, a fleet of UXers and designers specialized in commerce, a fleet of some of the most talented developers, and of course, a nerdy marketing department. And no, this is not a slide that the marketing team gave me. This is just to say that for us, a website or a web shop is not just a web shop. There are a ton of requirements and expectations to the foundation of which we put our customers on. And this is even long before and long after we write the first line of code.
All right. So I want to take you on a small journey back in time. We were tasked with building this small proof of concept single-page application that could talk with a CMS and eventually also a product information system in order to win a big client. And we had 2 days to do it. Have you ever had to do that? Well, then you know you're out of time from the start, so you need to be smart about it. And how did you go about that? Oh, and of course, we have to hit the target with all the buzzwords going circles like SPA, SSR, SSG, serverless, headless, linding, testing, etc. Well, we did, and here's how we did it. There are 2 main areas we needed to focus on in order to get an end-to-end app up and running, which is content and front-end. Content-wise, we needed a headless CMS because we're building a single-page application, and we don't want to spend any time setting it up, really, and it should be fast. There are a lot of CMSs out there, but we can only pick one. And considering what conference we're speaking at, it hardly comes as a surprise what we picked. Umbraco Heartcore, of course. So why did we pick Umbraco Heartcore? Well, first of all, it takes no time setting up. It's native to Umbraco Cloud, so we didn't have to worry about hosting, and we could get a free trial while testing out the proof of concept app. It comes with a CDN and responds very fast on requests. It has both a REST API and GraphQL with API permissions, which was perfect for what we needed for this app. And it's built on the Umbraco platform that we already know and love. The next main area is the front end. And here we needed to prove a few things. We should handle static side and server side generation and rendering for SEO purposes and fast load times. And we needed to choose a framework that we could live comfortably with if the proof of concept app ever became a reality. And some other stuff as well, like good documentation and a nice developer experience. Looking through the web for front-end frameworks, again, we found a ton, and of course we have our preferences, but we try to come into this with an open mind. But we already knew React pretty well in our organization, and we couldn't be sure who would inherit this proof of concept, so we went with Next.js. We spent practically no time setting it up either. It has lots of developer love, native support for server-side rendering and static-side generation. It's built with React or Preact in mind, and it supports just a multitude of configurations and plugins. And we could spin up a complete working development environment in mere seconds. Now that we had the basics, we needed to tie the loose ends. So let's take a dive into the setup process. So for Umbraco Heartcore, we need to set it up. We need some document types to get started, and we need to build a minor content tree. And it's so easy getting started with Umbraco Heartcore. I mean, we logged in on our cloud account, created a new project, selected the hardcore type. We chose the mini tier because we only needed one environment, and for this proof of concept, we were not going to use GraphQL. So it takes a few seconds setting up the project, and while it's running, it might be a good place to grab a cup of coffee in the setup process. Right. After a few minutes, we could log into the back office and get started creating document types and setting up content. You see, there it is. All right. So now that we had a function in Umbraco instance, we proceeded with document type setup. We needed to create a few basic pages, create some composition types for shared properties, and we were done. Standard pages are supposed to be regular content pages where we can add stuff like page elements and modules, but we'll leave this out for the sake of this demo. And we created a product list page containing some imaginary product list IDs that we could imagine being used to query a product service. Next up, we added some pages to the content tree. We needed only a few content pages and some product pages. That was it. All right, getting access through the API requires a special header with a product key and a CDN URL. You can find this under Headless settings, where you can also configure stuff like API access and toy around with the API browser. Calling the ID of the clothing page now gave us the following data. You can see the name of the page, the content type alias, and product list IDs 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. Back to the to-do list. The next item is setting up Next.js. We need a way to handle dynamic routes, and we need a way to communicate with the API. I had already set up Node.js on my machine, so this is a requirement. But all I had to do was to open a terminal and write npx create next app -- TypeScript, because we also want that sweet TypeScript support as well, which comes out of the box with Next.js. And this was such an easy process. It's running very fast, and there it is. I really loved it. After running the command, we get this project structure, as you see here. It includes some configuration files and an example index component. Very straightforward. We can now run npm run dev or yarn dev and start coding. Running the command launches the browser, and we see the example page. And now we have a functioning Next.js workspace. Well, now what? We need to start thinking about getting the data, about connecting the dots. Now that we had Next.js up and running locally, we started by adding ways to communicate with Umbraco. It works best if you install the npm package Umbraco/Headless client, which you can see we import here at the top of the file. Then we simply check for environment variables containing our project alias and our API key, and we return a new instance of that client. Next up, we added a data fetcher named api.ts. It has a function to facilitate the communication. So we start by importing the client from the file before, and then we added a function called getPage with URL, which takes in a URL as a parameter. It simply queries the client for that URL and either returns the page or throws an error, depending on if Umbraco found it. The Umbraco client also contains helper functions to get the root of the project, which you could use to build out a navigation menu or sitemap. So we get the root, and here we find the home page, and we get the first level navigation by querying for the children of that page. Very simple. So the great thing about Heartcore is that if you give it a URL, it will get you the data for the corresponding page, as you just saw with our data fetcher. To facilitate this with Next.js, we need to use their powerful file routing pattern. We can read from the documentations that if you place a file named _pid.js in the pages directory, you can access the PID from the query object. Great. You can see that concept here. If you call the file about.csx, it will resolve to the URL of /about, for instance. But this is a headless CMS, so we don't know the routes. Well, Next.js to the rescue again. It has a concept to catch all routes, which is exactly what we needed. They call it slug, and you may consider it as a wildcard. So if you place a file named _slug.js in the pages directory, you can then access the wildcard or slug from within. Awesome. But how did we link this up with Umbraco then? This was really easy with Next.js. We needed a dynamic page resolver, which we named dynamic page, and put it in the slug file. You may notice this has an additional bracket, making it an optional route with Next.js, so it also resolves the front page. At the top of the file, you see our React component called dynamic page, which simply contained a simple layout component, which I'm not going to show here, but safe to say it contains stuff like the header, navigation, footer. Then we have a function called getStaticPaths. You use this to tell Next.js what static paths to build at build time, but we wanted to build them only by request. So we put an empty paths array along with a fallback mode of blocking, which makes the visitor wait for the initial request while still enabling static site generation. Lastly, we have a function called getStaticProps. Our React component above accepts a prop containing the page object from Umbraco, which we resolve here by invoking our data fetcher from before. Then we return the object along with a revalidate of X amount of seconds, which tells Next.js how long the page can live statically before it has to be re-rendered. If the Umbraco client throws an error, we'll tell Next.js to show the user a 404 code. I know it's a lot of code to take in, really, but don't sweat it. Next.js has excellent documentation and example repos. So if you'd like to give this a shot yourselves. And that's it. I mean, really, that's all there was to it. We now had a working proof of concept app that we could showcase to our client. Of course, the work was not completely done, as we still needed to add more fields to Umbraco. And we needed to add some styling. But the communication between the Next.js app and Umbraco was there. We fetched and resolved pages dynamically. We could even host it somewhere like Vercel or Netlify, who support Next.js out of the box. And all that was left was to add content elements, which is so easy with Umbraco. But of course, you already know that great Umbraco feeling of adding new properties and document types. It's just so smooth. I want to talk about what we actually learned from this. So what did we learn? Well, for Umbraco Heartcore, we now had a headless instance up and running with a clear line between backend and frontend. It was easy to set up. It has quick time to market for our clients so they can ship new content really fast. And there's a beloved editor experience between our clients. They really love working with Umbraco. And it's very fast. And for Next.js, well, it has static site generation, server-side rendering. It's also easy to set up. It was easy to get an API integration up and running. It's really, really fast. And it has very nice documentation, which makes onboarding of new developers really easy. Yeah. So I highly encourage you to try it out. Maybe you'll love it so much that your next project will be headless. Who knows? So I'm going to leave you with my optimistic words and hand over to Stefan now, who will explain what we did next.
Thanks, Digga. And awesome. So if we go even further back in time, I'm pretty sure that we can all recall that warm and lovey feeling you got when you spoke to your first teenage crush. That's the exact same feeling we got when we played around and got to know Heartcore and Next.js for the benefits that Jacob just mentioned. There were a few things in particular that we really liked about playing around with this POC. It was that it enabled us to increase our time to market significantly. It was blazing fast. And there was a clear line between backend and frontend, which we prefer here at Impact. Lastly, but not least, the developer experience, both for Next and for the Heartcore. So none of this is new here for us at Impact. An example is that even long before playing with Heartcore, we used Umbraco as a headless CMS. And we've depended on Umbraco and Next.js's speed in performance and in time to market multiple times here in Impact. The hard part is achieving all of this in a coherent, production-graded setup. Let's call it the real world outside of POC. So what we really fell in love with, the true reason for this warm and fluffy belly feeling was how effortless it was to get started, how productive we were, and how this could allow us to push our customers' boundaries and expectations even further. So in short, it gave us a solid foundation. I would love to show you guys how we're turning this teenage love into a reality, a committed relationship, you might say. Because this is exactly what I'm working on here at Impact as an Accelerator lead. But before we get started, we'll first need to clarify the difference between teenage love and a grown-up relationship. In our case, a proof of concept and the real world. A proof of concept, things are a bit less committed. It's a bit more safe. While in the real world, though, it's a bit more complicated. This is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just complicated. And it usually gets way more complicated down the road. So I would like to just illustrate this. I've stolen a diagram from Azure on a simple website infrastructure. And this is a great example of the ton of scenarios, the edge cases, and the moving parts to consider when trying to create this warm and fuzzy feeling in a complex and coherent environment. In our case, it turned out that we could sum up about 80% of all of these real-world scenarios in 4 high-level sections. So the first is support a wide range of data, both when it comes to getting data and submitting data. So working with e-commerce sites at this scale, this part particularly usually gets pretty complicated. If we can streamline this into some common patterns, we can increase our time to market significantly. So if we go back to what Jacob showed, we could modify this concept a bit, and we could utilize a set of API resolvers that could resolve Umbraco Heartcore, Umbraco, some commerce APIs, etc., etc. So when this is solved, one of the next things to tackle is customizing your production single-page application. And to do this, Next.js comes with a next.config file that allows you to override some of the default preferences. For us, it was important that we could handle the load balancing with a bit more nuance, that our debugging was more accessible and intuitive, more precise, so we could act faster, that our deployments were tagged with a specific ID to ensure the right cache was being used at the right time. And also, we had certain demands on assets, etc. These are just examples of how you can configure this. You could have multiple of these config files for different environments, etc. So take it when you get this far in the process. The next step is that we need to find a way to handle the high demand for a highly performant infrastructure. And this is for hosting our single page application, our API services, assets, etc., etc. And here is one of the benefits of picking Umbraco. Since they take care of their own infrastructure, this means that there's a bit less work to do on our part in this scenario. We partnered up with Azure for all our hosting. So we use one of their features, which is a resource manager template, also known as an ARM template. And the benefits of going in this direction is that it's version controlled, so we can see changes made. It allows us to do repeatable deploys in case something breaks or we need to spin up something quickly. It gives us variables and parameters. It's native to Azure, and it's reusable. Next, we stay in the Azure realm. Our CI and DI, we use DevOps, and they use the typical build syntax. So that is known. We can use parameters, and again, this is a reusable way of creating a CI and DI. So when all these four check marks are set, we are quite far with the complete production-graded setups. Of course, there will be nuances, there will be different things to take care of, but we are pretty far in this case. And this is with very few custom parts. So most of this is dependent on our solid foundation from earlier. And this is where it gets really exciting, because this is where I get to talk about one of the exciting initiatives we are working on here in Impact in our Accelerator. So I would like to introduce you to one of these many initiatives, which is our commerce experience system. A system designed to accelerate our customers' time to market, push our creativity, performance, and quality even further than we do today. So our real-world checklist is a part of this tech stack in our commerce experience system. It's a fairly small part if you consider all the other things that we are adding in there. I see I have the same one twice. But this tech stack is part of a larger, coherent system that we at Impact cannot wait to talk more about later on as we get further on. So this is one of the big things that we at Impact are working on internally to ramp up our quality.
So we really hope you enjoyed our talk.
If you, like us, love to work with stuff like this, please reach out. We would love to hear what you guys are cooking on, what you guys are cooking. Especially if you're working on something similar to this, we would love to hear from you.
Oh, and there was something else. Yeah, we are hiring. So check out Impact DK if you'd like to work with all of these new and exciting technologies.
So anyways, always reach out, and we'll be sticking around for the QA session here
in 1 hour.
In 1 hour.
Yeah.
See you guys there.
See you.